Starting,
Good,
right?
good. So I'm also started the recording.
Right. Good afternoon to all participants. Myself, Dr. C.S. Srinivas, Principal of Vageshwari College of Engineering. The Vageshwari College of Engineering is established in the year 2005, located in Karimnagar district of Telangana state, which is sponsored by Sri Vageshwari Educational Society. We have eminent faculty members in all the departments, and the infrastructure is as per the university curriculum and the state of art of infrastructure we have, and also we institution is located on the main Rajiv Gandhi Rahadari highway, which starts from Hyderabad to Karimnagar. Very easy to access to our institution from all over Telangana. The institution is having BTech courses in civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electronics engineering, computer science engineering, and electrical engineering. And also we have MTech courses in CSE, EC, VLSI, power electronics, CAD/CAM. And also we have PG programs in MBA as well as in MCA. We do have diploma courses in civil engineering, mechanical, electronics, and electrical engineering. The institution is having 30 acres of land, a good infrastructure, and well-maintained ambience. Let me introduce today's speaker. Dr. Jaydev Gnani has been working in the Department of Computer Science in Majma University, Kingdom, Saudi Arabia. Since 2015, Sir has received his doctoral degree in Computer Science Engineering from Central University, Hyderabad in the year 2019, and a master's degree in Computer Science Engineering from University of Usmania University, Hyderabad in the year 1994. Sir has worked at several positions in different organizations, having of 25 years of vast experience in the computer science and engineering field. Sir is a dedicated and a great personality in the computer science area in Telangana, particularly in Karimnagar, Warangal, Khammam, Nizamabad, and some parts of the Hyderabad. A well-known personality. Sir has delivered many guest lectures in JNTU Hyderabad, Usmania University, Central University, in Kakatiya Institute of Technology Science, Warangal, in other universities, and also delivered guest lectures in online, which is being organized by many of the institutions during this pandemic time. I thanks for you, sir, for sparing your valuable time. Sir taught the subjects in different domains, subject areas like software engineering, algorithm analysis and design, programming languages, assembly language programming, software evaluation, software architectures, low-level design, add software, design patterns, artificial intelligence. Sir, research interest areas include software engineering, big data analytics, distributed computing, machine learning algorithms, and their applications. To his credit, SR has published more than 100 articles in conference and journals. Sir has visited Germany, Malaysia, and Nepal with the grants of AST and EGC to publish his research papers. Sir has published two books. And Sir possesses senior member in IEEE and other memberships to his credit. Under his guideship, 2 scholars have got awarded PhDs from JNTU Hyderabad and JNTU Anantapur. At present, Sir is guiding more than 10 candidates in different universities like Osmania University, JNTU Hyderabad, and JNTU Kakinada. Thank you, sir. Thank you for spending your valuable time during this time. I request. Good morning.
Yeah,
good morning. Thank you, sir.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Dr.
Please.
Yeah,
Please
good
go
morning,
ahead.
Dr. Srinivasa.
Thank you, sir.
Let me thank you for giving this opportunity to interact all the faculty members across various states. Let me directly go to the topic. Today we are going to see machine learning using R programming language. I try to give you a feel of machine learning and R programming both within the span which is possible for 1 hour. Let us try to see how we can cover. I think everybody can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are able to see your screen. Please carry on.
Okay. What is machine learning? Machine learning is a study of algorithms that improve their performance at some task with experience. So you are trying to optimize the performance criterion using example data or past experience. In a nutshell, you are trying to tell that with the past experience, you are trying to learn something and you are trying to apply to the future. That is what is machine learning. So machine learning is also using some techniques from statistics. So that is what is the role of statistics in machine learning. So you are trying to inference from a sample. So this is a concept taken from statistics. So that is used in machine learning. And from computer science, if you look at now, so you are trying to use efficient algorithms to solve the optimization problems and representing and evaluating the inference. So this is how you are trying to relate computer science to machine learning. Machine learning is preferred approach to speech recognition, natural language processing, computer vision, medical outcomes analysis, robot control, computational biology. These are the few applications which I am trying to show you now, but there are numerous applications which can be used with machine learning. So this trend is also increasing now presently. Your new algorithms are coming up, improved machine learning algorithms are coming up, improved data capture, networking, faster computers are available now. Software is too complex to write by hand. So everything you are feeding the data and getting the results and trying to predict it. You are also getting the data from new sensors or IO devices. And we are also having demand for self-customization to user and environment. It turns out to be difficult to extract knowledge from experts. During 1980s, people were building expert systems from the knowledge of the domain experts, but it was difficult to make into as a system now. But now if you look at the machine learning now, there is a lot of improvement. Anybody can apply these machine learning techniques for solving their problems. Let us try to compare the most common field, machine learning and statistics. Machine learning is a subfield of computer science and artificial intelligence. It deals with building systems that can learn from data instead of explicitly programmed instructions. Whereas a statistical model, on the other hand, is a subfield of mathematics. Statisticians must understand how the data was collected, statistical properties of the estimator, the underlying distribution of the population they're studying, and the properties you would expect, and they experiment many number of times. So statistical is basically oriented towards mathematics, and machine learning is towards computer science and artificial intelligence, but machine learning uses statistics internally. Another field you have machine learning and data science. We are trying to compare them. Machine learning creates a useful model or program by autonomously testing many solutions against the available data and finding the best fit for the problem. Nowadays, we have some frameworks are available, machine learning frameworks, where you feed your data and it will apply this data onto multiple algorithms and will give you the best algorithm automatically. You need not worry about how do you apply each algorithm one by one. It does itself and it's apply and it will tell you how exactly you can find out an algorithm which is performing very well against your data. Data science can be seen as incorporation of multiple parental disciplines including data analytics, software engineering, data engineering, machine learning, predictive analytics and more. So data science, within that machine learning is a part. You need to include so many other things are also like software engineering, data engineering and data analytics and so on like that. This is a data science is a parent, you can say, you know, is a parent of your machine learning. Let us see a sample classification problem. So this is regarding credit scoring of a customer in a bank, whether he is a low risk customer or high risk customer, you are trying to classify them. So let us say I am trying to classify them using if income greater than some property theta 1 and then expenses greater than something theta 2. So you are trying to identify the low risk, and if you say that otherwise you are trying to classify them as high risk based on some properties. If you look at the diagram here now, so high risk customers are shown as using a red symbol, negative symbol, and the low risk customers are shown using positive symbol. If here you look at now, the classification is not linear. It is based on some equation. We will not worry about how the mathematically it is done internally and so on. So that is the beauty of your machine learning. You apply the data and you want, what do you want? You mention them, you will get the result from that. So what are the applications of this classification part? So there are numerous applications like pattern recognition. I will tell you an example of pattern recognition. The most common is, you know, ATM withdrawal of a customer. That pattern, every customer will have a pattern of withdrawal. So usually they draw the amount from their nearby ATMs. That's most likely 99.9 times a customer withdraws the cash from their ATMs which are nearby to his home or mostly in the district. Rarely he withdraws the amount from outside the cities or other states or other countries. So this is how they make the patterns. If a customer withdraws the amount suddenly from a different country, then immediately they will get a verification call from the bank for confirmation of security. Is it you withdrawing the money? That is exactly what happened. Even it happens with me also. Recently, my debit card has been used in San Francisco by some hacker. I do not know how they got my details, but immediately I called to my bank and I blocked it. So it happens sometimes, you know. So this is called pattern recognition. Then you have face recognition. This is another problem you have, where also you have every face of a human being will have certain patterns. So they try to store it. This is called a feature vector. You try to store inside. And whenever you want to recognize a person, so based on this feature vector, you try to recognize the person. So for example, pose, lighting, occlusion, that is glasses, beard, makeup, hairstyle, these are all taken into consideration while recognizing a face. Then you have character recognition, like handwriting character recognition. Everybody's writing will be different, and still you should be able to recognize the characters. So this problem is called character recognition. You need to identify different handwriting styles. Then you have speech recognition. So you have temporal dependency. Temporal means always with time. So you have a temporal dependency. Use of a dictionary or the syntax of the language. So you are supposed to use it to identify the speech. Then sensor fusion, sometimes you need to combine multiple modalities like visual, lip image, acoustic for speech, and so on. The most popular example is virtual news readers. So that's the most popularly available now. So you can create what you can choose, what are the reader you want, and you can feed the language, whatever you want, like English or Spanish or Russian, you feed the language. Based on the translation, the lip sync of the virtual reader will change automatically. So that is the beauty of this speech recognition, and the lip syncing is all done using your artificial intelligence and machine learning in the downside now as a layer. So then medical diagnosis, you are trying to identify the disease from the illnesses. So what type of symptoms you have, from that you need to identify the illness, what type of illness you have. For example, if you look at the COVID pandemic now, everything is running under this COVID pandemic. So like you have a cough, you have a cold and high fever and throat pain and breathlessness. These are the symptoms of a corona. Otherwise, you may not have corona. So you may have other like just common flu or common fever or dengue fever. We don't know. These are some other symptoms. So it's a careful analysis. And some people claim that, using X-rays, they can identify a corona patient or not. But if you want to identify from a chest X-ray, unless the customer is in advanced stage, they cannot identify it as a corona patient. So that's the problem here now. In the initial stages, you don't see any symptoms in the chest X-ray. It takes some time to identify the stage of this particular person, but by the time it may be very serious, the patient may not be recovered. So this is a problem with, this is a challenge with identifying the COVID-19 patient. Then you have a web advertising is another example where, based on the customer, the user nature, you should be able to identify whether the customer can click on the ad or not. You should identify that. This is another example where it's called as web advertising and traffic analysis. If you look at here, the training examples of a person face will be given in different directions, different poses. The training will be given, and the test images will be given like this or this or this or this, and still you should be able to identify whether the person is the same person or not. So this is a challenge of your face recognition. So this can also be solved using your machine learning and artificial intelligence. So let us take another example, which is called as a prediction problem now. So usually the popular, if the relation is very simple, you can use regression for identifying a prediction, for making prediction. Example is price of a used car. Let us say I want to predict the price of a used car. Many of the websites are giving this option. You enter the parameters of your car. They will try to predict the price of your car, how much you can get from the market. So based on the model of the car and based on the mileage of the car and based on the make of the car, which company you are using. So based on the brand value and everything, they try to estimate the value and based on this particular, your properties of the car. So here I am trying to take the simple example. Let us say the mileage of the car and the price of the car. It's a simple relation like y equal to mx plus c. Similar to that, I am making it as y equal to wx plus w0. And if there is a less mileage is less, you will get a more price. If more mileage, you will get a less price. It's a linear relationship. So this is how, x is a car attribute, y is a price, y equal to a model g, like a function of g with the car attributes x, and theta is some parameters. So this is how we are trying to mention. This is a simple prediction problem which can be solved using machine learning. So let us take some other category where you have supervised learning. So where the common example is decision trees that create some rules. This is one model. There are several models under supervised learning. So let us say prediction of future cases. Use the rule to predict the output for future inputs. Knowledge extraction, the rule is easy to understand. I try to extract the knowledge from the existing data set. I store it, and when I give the new data, I try to generate the prediction and output. So this is called supervised learning. Here I know the data and I know the initial outcome also for some of the records. For a record, let us say A, B, I know the output C, and like that, this C is a expected outcome. Already I know it. Like that, I know for some, let us say 1,000 records I have, then I know for all of them, I know the outputs. You try to feed it. for your algorithm and try to learn from the knowledge which you have from the input and for the expected outcome. Then coming to the compression, the rule is simpler than the data it explains. So you try to make the rule in such a way that you need not worry about how do you make the rule and so on. So the algorithm will automatically create a rule from your machine learning language or package, whatever you have, like R programming or Python programming, it makes itself for you. So you have a small rule, it is automatically made by the system, and this is how we are trying to look at. Then you have outlier detection, exceptions that are not covered by the rule. Example, fraud. Sometimes, you look at outliers means a data point which is outside your boundary is called outlier. So these are some of the rare points. Let us say, I have 1,000 records, 999 are within my domain and just 1 point may be out of my domain. It is not matching my prediction. Why, I do not know. There may be some cases where you have exceptions. Always, even including your machine learning also. So this is how you are trying to look at. So this is called outlier detection. But usually, the outliers are more, then you need to worry about the outliers. Usually, 1%, 2%, 3%, it does not matter. So these are all part of your outlier detections. Learning, what normally happens, this is, you are trying to look at the unsupervised learning now. Here, I do not know the labels of the data. Labels means I have some data, but I don't have any outcome. I don't have any knowledge about the data. In that case, what should you do now? There is no output which is available for me. So the only way what I can do is clustering is a popular mechanism of unsupervised learning, which you are trying to look at now. So this is called clustering. That is, grouping of similar instances is a popular application of unsupervised learning. I told you one example, regarding the customer grouping. Low risk customers or high risk customer. Here I don't know whether the customer is a high risk customer or low risk customer. Based on his background, his income level, his expenses level, I can make him as a low risk or high risk. It's a unsupervised learning. I need not know the customer other details. Just I know the data of the customer. Yes, I can classify them. So this is exactly what you say. Like, credit scoring of a customer in the banks. Usually a credit scoring of around 800 to 800, from 650 above and up to 800 will be treated as a good customer in the bank. Then only you will get a personal loan or any other loan. If it is less than 650 credit scoring or credit rating, then you don't get any loan from the bank because you are a high risk customer. How do they know it? Based on your previous data, your loan payment, repayment, and so on. So presently the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, has announced a moratorium. They have done it now. They have given this moratorium for the customers, those who have taken loans now. Here what they have the given exemption is credit rating will not affect your loan repayment during the 6 months. So that is what you say, importance of your credit rating now. If your credit rating, if you lose, you don't get a loan in future. So that is a problem here now. So this is called, one example, it's called clustering now. Then other applications we have summarization, association analysis. Association analysis, the most popular example. How a customer purchase in a supermarket. Suppose a customer purchases a bread, most likely purchases butter. Bread and butter is a common combination for a customer in a supermarket. This is 90% is happening. So this is how the association you calculate now. Suppose if a customer is purchasing bread and customer is purchasing maybe some other like, is purchasing some vegetables. The association may not be so strong. He may purchase, he may not purchase. But bread and butter or bread or jam is most likely to be associated while purchasing. So this is your association. This is also part of your unsupervised learning. There is no label, but still I can get a knowledge from these transactions. So let us see some other example. Example of this unsupervised learning. Let us coming to the customer segmentation in CRM, customer relationship management, CRM. Customer segmentation is a popular application in the current area of machine learning now. So that's the reason people from business analytics, okay, they go for this customer segmentation. Who are most likely my probable customer is your customer segmentation. Who is going to purchase my product, likely to purchase my customer product, will be targeted more than unnecessarily bothering other customers. Suppose a customer, usually, you know, when you look at, suppose you purchase a car from Maruti, you have purchased a car. Maybe like a Maruti Alto you have purchased, maybe like 5 years back or 10 years back you purchased now. It is most likely that you are satisfied with the company and you may purchase a new car from the same company in future. So they target you. Already you are using, you are satisfied with the product and they try to target you instead of new customer. Because it is easy to convince you rather than the new customer. This is your customer segmentation, which is most popular in the business now. So that's the reason whenever you go now the buzzword in the industry, wherever you go, any field you take, whether it's a healthcare, informatics or business analytics, financial analytics, banks, wherever you go now. So machine learning and data science and data analytics, exploratory data analytics, predictive analytics, these are all the buzzwords which are happening now. If somebody learns a course for 6 months or 3 months, they done some case studies, they are sure to get a job in this data science. Now, slowly, you know, you cannot expect, you know, leap and bound suddenly jumping of salary from 10,000 to 1 lakh suddenly, but sure. So there is a lot, even in future up to 10 years, you have this scope for this data science and machine learning. So then another example is image compression. One example is called as color quantization. So what is meant by color quantization? I am trying to reduce the depth of the color of an image without compromising the overall quality of the picture. So this is called color quantization. When it is useful now, this particular comparison, my bandwidth is very less. I want to transfer my images. The image is very large. For example, if you look at now, high density image, which is taken by high resolution camera. It may be around 30 MB or 40 MB, just one image. Then how do you transfer online? Very difficult to do it now. So then they do color quantization. They try to reduce the depth of the image without compromising the overall picture. You see, the picture is similar, but slightly some of the colors which are not directly affecting your quality will be removed so that your image size will be reduced and will be compressed. So this is another example where this image compression can be done. Then you have bioinformatics. Okay, there you have the common application is called finding motifs. Motifs means patterns. So I told you, you know, when what are the symptoms of a corona patient, or what is the pattern of a chest X-ray of a corona patient, what is the chest X-ray of a cancer patient. So these are all called motifs or patterns to identify a ill patient. So this is, you know,
bioinformatics. Videos కనిపిస్తున్నాయి, మ్యూట్ చేసే వాళ్ళను, మ్యూట్ చేయి. కొంతమంది పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ మొత్తం బనీన్ మీద ఉన్నారు, బనీన్ లేకుండా ఉన్నాడు మొత్తం. అది ఎవరంటే సదానందం అని అన్నాడు.
ఓకే సార్, చేస్తాను.
Okay, this is the application of your bioinformatics. Okay, then I will try to tell you the basic framework of machine learning, how it works. Let us say, apply a prediction function to a feature representation of the image to get the desired output. Let us say I am trying to formulate a function f and I am trying to give the apple image as an input. I am trying to get the output as an apple. This I am trying to predict now. So this is based on the features of the apple. I am trying to identify this one as apple. How do I know? I am trying to learn from the features of the image of the apple and try to save the knowledge. And when I give the apple, I must say it has apple. Similar to for the tomato or maybe cow or any other animal. So I need to formulate a function. So that is how a machine learning framework will work. save the knowledge from the features, try to store it and make as a function, and then try to predict based on the input how we are trying to predict it. So usually the function is like y equal to fx. If is the function maybe a simple linear function like a regression, or maybe a complicated function, so we do not understand how exactly it is implemented. So just if I know the algorithm name, that's enough. I can implement in my R programming or Python programming. Both languages are suitable for this machine learning. So y equal to f of x. So this y is the output which is expected now. F is a function, prediction function, and this x is a feature of the image. This feature may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 100. So it depends on your algorithm, what type of algorithm you are trying to use. So if you look at the training now, given a training set of labeled examples x1, y1, x1 means input, y1 is a label, and xn and yn. Yn is a expected output, y1 is a expected output. When I have this knowledge, I can devise a function, prediction function effectively, and then I try to predict whenever I give a new input now. So usually what you try to do is, from the given data set, you try to divide into 70-30 ratio. This is the most popular choice for division or partitioning your input data. 1000 records, I know the data. All the labels, I know it. That is all the outcomes, I know it. Still, I divide, partition them into 70-30 ratio. That is 0.7%. That is 0.7 multiplied by my number of records is one part. 0.3 multiplied by number of records is another part. So this 70% with labels means with the known output is used as my training set. Because I know the labels, I know the output, I use it as my training set. In the testing set, 30% records are there. Already we have discussed 70-30. So remaining 30, already I know the labels, but still I can use it as a testing set. The reason here is, if I want to validate my algorithm, there is no validation method except my available data. In that case, I keep this 30, whatever my already outputs are available, I keep aside and I apply the testing set, try to predict it. So this is a predicted output, and already I have my expected output is there, already is available with me because these are also known records. Then compare now the calculated output with the previous expected output. Then I can compare the accuracy now. So this is how exactly how the validation can be done. So otherwise, if you make something and I'm predicting now, who will validate your algorithm? It's very difficult. So I will tell you an example now. This what is the difficulty now? Recently in the news, some Chinese research group has predicted that by May 2nd in India, the cases growth level per day will be around 8,000 or 9,000 per day. They have predicted now. Unless you reach May 2nd, you cannot validate the output, whatever they have predicted now. But in fact, almost it was very close. It was around 8,950, somewhere around the growth of the number of cases in COVID in India now. How do they predict? So, you know, what functions they have used, what algorithm they have used, they did not reveal it. But really, you know, the accuracy was almost 95 to 99% was their accuracy. So this is the live case now, which I'm trying to like. Same thing, Indian government, while telling the lockdown, applying the lockdown on April 22nd, 23rd, they have started the lockdown in India now. But the government of Ministry of Health, they told that by May 16th, there will not be any case in India. There will be 0 cases in India. It is based on some of the algorithm suggested by a researcher from other group. What is the function they have used, we do not know. But they predicted that when there is a lockdown and continuously up to May 16, there is a choice that there will be 0 number of cases in India and we can lift the lockdown. But unfortunately, that algorithm did not succeed. You see, how do I know in future what happens? The validation cannot be done unless you reach that state. So this is the challenge of your machine learning. Always may not be true, whatever you do is true in future. So this is a challenge. It depends on your previous experience, how many case studies you have done, how many projects you have done. So this is where your experience matters. Okay, just by learning machine learning today, I will become expert by tomorrow. No, it does not. You cannot. So it takes time for getting the correct validation. So let us take some example now. I try to tell you. I am giving some training images here. If you look at here, apples and some of the other vegetables I am giving, and some other animals I am giving, maybe like horse and dog and cows. I'm trying to give this as a training images. Now I have to formulate a function in such a way that if any of the input if I give from these images, I should correctly classify, predict what type of image it is. Is it an apple? Is it a tomato? Or is it a dog? Or is it a horse? I need to identify exactly how I can predict now. So what are the steps to be followed? Usually I try to extract the features for the images which are common to all of them. And every image will have certain features which are unique to other figures. For example, if you look at the shape of an image, for example, round image, if you look at now, round. Tomato is also round, apple is also round. But round is not enough to identify a particular image, to classify it as an apple or tomato. So there may be some other features like a color. So tomato color uniformly you look at now, maybe roughly it is like, reddish orange, the combination. So like that, these are the features you try to identify. So like that you identify the image features from all of them. Then you give the training to your algorithm and for your model, and with the labels, some labels which are available to you. Using these labels, you try to train them, and then your output will be your learned model. It is available to you. Then you give the test image. Then you are trying to extract the image features from that. Then try to predict what the figure from that one. So this is how the general steps which are done in image prediction applications or classification applications. So usually in the features of the image, if you look at now, there are two popular features. One will be raw pixels and other will be histogram. The first one is take all the pixels, try to study them. What type of pixels you have in the most popular density of your pixels in your figure. That is the one way. And the other one is called histogram, that the density of your pixels at different places or different levels. So this is how the image analysis will be done. Just a sample I am trying to tell you now. Now, what we have observed here is, so these are the images. For all of them, I need to have one function to identify a particular figure now. So here what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to make a generalized function for all these figures. I'm trying to make it now. One function for all these type of images. It is not a different function for different images. For apple, tomato, or animals, or everything, I have a single function. So this is called generalization, which I'm trying to do now. So let us say this is your training set, this is your testing set. Now the question is, how well my learned model can identify properly the test set. So this is my challenge now. So how this generalization function, so what are the types of the errors which are possible under this generalization error? Let us try to look at now. In the function, what are the errors possible? One thing is bias. Bias means your algorithm is too simple, limited flexibility, simple assumptions you made it. Your algorithm you made, simplified algorithms you made it. So that's a difficulty you have here. So this is called bias now. Make too simple. So this is called biasing. In that case, what happens is, let us say, I will tell you an example. Everything which is round is apple. But is it really true? There is a tomato is also there. It is also round shape. So it will not fit your algorithm. So this is called biasing. If it is too simple, so this is called underfitting. Underfitting of your algorithm. So all the elements will fit into your algorithm. That's the problem we have. And another example I will tell you. Any animal which is having 4 legs is a cat. How come it be true? Every animal is having 4 legs. How can you say this? A rule has a 4 legs. Some animal is having it is called as a cat. Now, no, it is not possible. So this is called underfitting or biasing. Then another problem is this is an error due to inaccurate assumptions or simplifications. So this is what you are trying to look at now, made by the model. Another problem is called variance. Variance is the difference between your model predictions. What predictions your model is doing. So your model is sometimes it is saying that's an apple, sometimes it is saying as a dog, predicting for the same input. So this is a variation of your output. More the variation means your algorithm is too complex. Bias means too simple. Variance, lot of variance means your algorithm is too complex. No data is fitting your algorithm. That is another extreme case. Variance you have. So this is called overfitting. Too complex. This is another error you have. So underfitting means already I told you this is regarding your biasing now. It is too simple. High bias and low variance is a problem with this particular underfitting now. High training error and high testing error. So because it is too simple, while training itself you have the error, so naturally your testing also will lead to error. Overfitting means model is too complex. That means you are having too many complex rules you are trying to make. So no image will be properly classified. Low bias, sure, but you have high variance. The result you cannot predict because the rules are too complex. So there's a problem here. Low training error, but high testing error. I told you, training error may not be there, but testing error is there because your algorithm is too complex. This is called overfitting. So let us look at the effect of training size now. So this is your data. This is your testing data. So initially you say less training, more error in testing. So as you give more training, your testing error will be reduced. That's the reason, you know, the popular assumption in your machine learning is, or in fact, it's a reality also. More the data you have, less the error you commit. So that is what is required. So that's the reason, you know, in the prediction, COVID in the first day, you have only one case on January 30. But by the time you know, it is more than 250, roughly it is near to 250,000 now. Nobody predicted at that level we reach 250,000 by now. Nobody predicted now because you don't have data. It depends on so many factors. It's a multivariable model. Nobody knows how it spreads. So this is how we are trying to look at it. Some of the examples of the classifiers to choose from support vector machines. You have the neural networks, naive-based classifiers, Bayesian network, logistic regression, randomized forest, boost decision trees, k nearest neighbors. Okay, these are some of the classifiers. And the question is, which is good? No classifier is inherently good or bad. It depends on your problem and assumptions and so many things. That's the reason you need to apply all the algorithms and you try to choose whichever is best performing based on your data. So that's the reason different methods are available. Nothing is suitable for a specific problem. So usually whenever you want to check the performance of an algorithm, the most popular one is called as confusion matrix. Confusion matrix means also known as error matrix, is a specific table layout that allows visualization of the performance of an algorithm. If a classification system has been trained to distinguish between cats, dogs, and rabbits, a confusion matrix will summarize the results of testing the algorithm for further inspection. So let us say I want to identify cats, only cats, whether cats or non-cats. I want to identify given images. So if I want to classify now, how do you measure the performance? Let us try to see here. Assuming 27 animals, 8 cats, 6 dogs, 13 rabbits, the resulting confusion matrix could look like this. You have a cat. These are the actual classes. These are the predicted output now. If you look at here, cats, which are actually cats, are correctly predicted as cats as 5. But actually cats, but they're predicted as dogs as 3 times. So the correctly, if you are predicting as cats, actual are cats, and you are predicting as cats, these are called as true positives. And false positives means actually they are caught, they are predicted wrongly as dogs. These are called false positives. These false negatives, you call it as. Then you have 2 false positives, you know, they are cats, but they are labeled as dogs. These are called false positives. They are labeled as cats, but actually they are dogs. These are called as false positives. Remaining all come under true negatives, like this one, this one, this one, this one. These combined together, these are called as true negatives. So a performance of algorithm, what I want here is how many non-cats, how many cats. So this is how we are trying to measure the performance. It's called as the confusion matrix. We'll see an example also. So let us come to the R programming language now. R language is a statistical language for generating graphs and calculating statistical quantities. Actually, it was supposed to be statistical language, but later it was added with machine learning packages. So now the people are also using R language for machine learning now. Python is also another choice for using this machine learning. The advantage of R is open source like Python, and it is given under GNU General Public License. So anybody can freely download it, they can use it. So that's the reason this R and Python both are popular for these machine learning applications. So what algorithm, what packages are available in R? What you can implement? Different regression models like linear regression, under that least square regression, principal component regression, partial least square regression. Then you have non-linear regression methods, support vector machine, k nearest neighbor, neural networks. These you can implement directly in R language. Some machine learning algorithms implemented in R regarding the classification or linear classification, such as logistic regression, linear discriminant analysis, then non-linear classification, the neural networks, support vector machine, k nearest neighbor, naive Bayes. Then you also have decision trees for classification, classification and regression, random forest, spot. So these are some of the algorithms. There are so many for naming, just few I have mentioned now. Where you can use this R language, some of the applications. First one is descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics focus on classifying data into groups, such as classification of customers into groups based on their buying profile. So this is called descriptive analytics, like unsupervised learning. I don't know about my customer anything about, just based on his buying, what type of products he is buying, I can classify them, I can group them. This is called descriptive analytics. It is very much useful in business now. Then you have predictive analytics. Predictive analytics focus on predicting a value and attribute based on the historical and current observations. So this is, like labeled data, supervised learning application. I have some data with labels, with the known outputs, I know it. I try to train them based on my data. Now I try to train them. Once I train, I can predict a future value based on my unknown input now. So this is called predictive analytics. Third one is prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics focus on predicting the future value and specifying the reason for that outcome. These models will continuously evolve as the new input data arrives. Prescriptive analytics. Now this is, such as your COVID, you are trying to predict now. How many number of cases you have? Based on that, I try to make some arrangements for my beds or ICU beds or ventilators and so on. So they predicted around 2 lakh beds. By the time end of May, they need to have 2 lakh beds entire India. That's the reason they planned for lockdown Indian government. They made the arrangements now. So this is called prescriptive analytics. I'm trying to forecast some need in future. I try to identify them based on some inputs, whichever is available. It may be true, may not be true, but I try to make it now. This is called prescriptive analytics. Another example is, how do you improve my economy? Economic measures to improve my GDP, gross domestic product of our country. How should I improve? So everybody is suggesting reduce the interest rate, reduce the fixed deposit rates, or reduce the loan rates, and I give the moratorium for the customers. These are all the prescriptive analytics part of this one now. These are all only based on experience. It may work, it may not work. Similar to that, lifting the lockdown also. Some people say lift the lockdown. That's what the people are saying now. It may work, it may not work. It depends now. Let us see some of the applications. Customer retention. That is, one customer would like to leave my company. Why? Why is leaving my company? So you need to analyze customer retention. Then fraud detection, I told you ATM withdrawal. So whether it is done by you or somebody else. Then you have electoral results prediction, such as exit polls. Usually you have, there's a, how do they predict now? They take a survey, they try to predict now who will win. So they try to make it now like a India Today survey, a Nielsen survey. There are so many things available. Then you have clinical decision support system based on your symptoms. They try to predict the disease. Then travel prediction, hotel booking prediction. These are all the applications here. One sample prediction, if you look at now. So this is my sample, which are having blue balls and red balls. And this is my training set. This is my blue balls and red balls. I have a function here. If I give a ball, I need to predict rightly as red or blue. What steps you need to follow here? These are the steps usually for prediction. Ask a question yourself what you're going to predict. Take the input data and identify the features, make a model, identify the parameters and evaluate it. Let us take a question now. I am trying to take the example of email classification. Is it a spam or not spam? Start with a general question. Can I automatically detect emails that are spam or not? But this is so general, I cannot make it exactly what this question means. So you see here, make it a concrete one. Can I use any quantitative characteristics so that I can identify my given email as a spam or ham? Ham means a good mail, spam means a bad email. Can I use any characteristics? One example is identifying the frequency of words. For example, you look at here, the frequency U is repeated twice here in my email. So this is how the frequency may tell you whether it's a spam or not. Too many words are repeated. It may give you an idea that it may be a specific spam email. There's the frequency of words. So let us see the data now from the R language now. Same program I have given as a separate program. I will show you also. You see here, library kernel lab, which is directly available in the R language. You import the library. This data set is available to you, spam data set, email data set with a keyword distribution frequency. If you want to see the starting 6 rows, there is a command called as head of spam. So I can see 6 rows here from my spam database. These are the around different fields I have here, 58 fields, like make keyword, address keyword, all, these are all the keywords and their frequency, which is available here. So these are the some of the commands. First of all, I am plotting the density of the keyword type non-spam, and the color is blue, and the frequency of yours, you see here, this is a blue color in the graph based on my keywords. Another one, lines density spam of your database, I'm based on my spam keyword and I'm making a red. So I'm trying to draw this red line. Don't worry about the syntax of all these things. So because you can learn one by one. Just I'm telling you a sample now. This sample is already given. So let us see. Now my question is, can I make a value, cutoff value, so that I can decide which is a spam, which is not a spam? You see, most of the repetition of these keywords is available here. So anything before is a spam. After this, spam and non-spam are both are similar for different keywords. So that's the reason I am choosing a cutoff. Before that cutoff, if my frequency is less than 0.5, they are spam, or otherwise they are not spam. So this is what I'm calling it as a C now. Some cutoff I'm trying to predict. So this is I'm making a AB line, cutoff equal to 0.5, color equal to black. You see this line, this is a cutoff line I'm trying to draw it. So anything before is a spam, anything after is a non-spam. Okay, let us see now. This is a prediction. I'm trying to make it now. I'm using a simple if-else function from this R library. So I'm trying to use a cutoff of 0.5, and I'm trying to say this your keyword frequency, if it is greater than 0.5, I'm trying to classify as a spam. Otherwise, I'm trying to classify as a non-spam. So I am making a prediction results now. So this is my result now. Table prediction and spam type divided by length of spam type. I'm trying to use it here. So this is my output now. This is the confusion matrix. I'm trying to identify the accuracy here now. So this is 0.4590 and these are my prediction output now. So what is the accuracy now? You take the diagonal here now. This is my diagonal which I'm trying to look at now. 0.459, this is nothing but true positive and this is true negative. So what I'm classifying exactly non-spam as non-spam is 0.45 is my accuracy, and whatever I'm saying spam as spam is 0.29 accuracy. So my accuracy is the addition of this one and this one. This is called my accuracy, 0.459 plus 0.292. So this is how I'm making a prediction, simple prediction, that is a classification problem in our language. This is a simple example I'm trying to show you. So these are some of the useful resources for your data science. Very popular websites: datacamp.com, analyticsvidya.com, this is an Indian website, datasciencecentral.com, kaggle.com for learning as well as participating in the competitions. Then you have coursera.org. These are some of the resources you have for this one, learning your machine learning R or Python. So thank you. Before taking up the questions now, and just I show you the R environment now. Then again I will come back. I will show you the R environment. Yeah, this is the R Studio which I have now. If you want to use R Studio, you must install R package first, then followed by R Studio. Your R Studio is an interface. So it is based on R package. So install R package first, then you install R Studio. So whatever I explained in the PPT now, same thing I am trying to show here as a program now. Let us see the output step by step. You can see the output here in the right side, and the textual output you see here now. So this is the terminal console window. This is your graphical window to the right side. I will execute one by one. Let us see now. Library I am trying to load. You see the down here. You see library is loaded. Then I am trying to load the data spam. So data spam is loaded. You see the right side. There are 4,601 observations with 58 variables, 58 columns. You can see the data here. Then I run the next line. I want to see the summary of this. So for every field, I am showing some statistical details, maximum value, minimum value, median, and so on. It is showing. So this is your summary command. Then head means, as I told you, it will show you the starting 6 rows of your database. Then str will show you the structure of your database. You can see now these are all the fields available. So you see what is the type of the field. So table, for example, if you look at the type now, type field, it is a factor field, that is it will have non-spam or spam. So like that for different fields, it is showing you what type of data it is taking. You see here. So this is, now I am drawing the graph now, plotting. You see here, you can see the blue line. These are all non-spam. Then I'm trying to draw for spam function. Then I'm trying to write the cutoff line. You see there. So then I'm trying to predict it. prediction function I have done, and I make the prediction. Now this is my confusion matrix. You see the confusion matrix now here. So the non-spam is 2112, which are correctly classified as a non-spam, and the spam are correctly classified as 1345, which are correctly classified as spam. So my correct classification is 2112 by 1345. If you divide with the length of my observations, that will be my accuracy now. So that's the reason I am trying to show my length now. What is the length of my table? 4601. Already I told you these are the observations. So this is my accuracy table. So this is my accuracy table now. 0.45 followed by 0.29. So whatever I have shown in my table, which I am trying to show here now. So this is what I wanted to tell you now. I hope I have given you some flavor of machine learning and our basic assumption. Now I take up some questions and you can ask some questions.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Siraj, tell some
Sir,
questions.
right, sir. It is requested to the participant. If anybody like to ask the questions to the speaker, please raise your hand so that I will give the permission and I will unmute you. You can directly ask the question to the speaker. Does anybody want to ask the question? Raise your hand. Sir, Naga Saujanya.
Yes, tell me, madam.
Naga Saujanya. Madam, now you are unmuted. Please ask the question. Naga Saujanya, ma'am.
Madam, please go ahead. I can listen you.
So otherwise, Bismillah Khan. Bismillah Khan, would you like to ask any question?
Sir, what is the difference between what is the difference between R language and Python? In which situation we can apply for this algorithm, sir?
Yeah, good question, sir. This is a common question. And in my view, people are using equally for Python and R. All the packages are available, both of them. But mostly for data analysis, you can go for R language. That is my preference, personal opinion. And for image processing and deep learning neural networks, you can go for Python language. Okay, sir?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Megha Seth. You can
Yes,
ask the
sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, madam.
Good morning, sir. I just
Good morning.
want to ask one question, that if I want to install Gplot and Gplot2, so how can I install? Because I have learned previously this R programming, R Studio I have learned, but I am unable to install Gplot in my version. Can you tell me that?
Madam, are you talking about Python or are you talking about R?
R, sir, R. Gplot is a part of R only, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Gplot you have, ggplot2 also, the new
Ggplot
library you have.
too. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have a command install.packages.
Huh,
From
sir,
the
I
using
have
the
used. Yes, sir. I have used that command, but I am unable to install that install.packages. If I'm writing that, it is always showing me that it is not installed properly.
Yeah, madam, one more thing, when you install RStudio now, you can see this install packages command is there.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
see here, madam? Can
Yes,
you see
sir.
here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you install RStudio interface, it is easy for you to manage your packages. Sometimes based on your dependency on your libraries from your Windows also, sometimes it may give you trouble. So you can use RStudio and you can try uninstall and install because it's
Okay.
only a trial and error.
Sir, one more doubt. Sir, whether installing the packages we have to select certain paths.
Madam, I can't follow you. Please pardon.
Sir, I'm asking while installing the packages, whether we have to set some path.
Yeah, no. What I'm telling you is, no. When you install these packages from the RStudio, nothing is to be set. Just you install, automatically it will go to the corresponding directory and it will install. You need not worry about that. That's the reason I prefer you to install RStudio after installing R. Okay, madam?
Okay, sir, one more doubt. We have to change the repository, or we have to change the repository, sir?
No. Nothing is required. When
Nothing
you go
is
through
required.
the RStudio, it is very simple interface. Please try to use RStudio. It will solve all the problems. I hope.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will try. I will try. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Next participant, please.
Neetu Sharma. If you have any query, please ask your question.
Yes, madam. Go ahead, please.
I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Please.
I can hear
Okay.
you.
Sir, my doubt is that for some prediction, modeling, I'm using SPSS as my software to do the analysis. As you
Yes.
said, like RStudio is there, and definitely I can see that it is also very it is good to use. So
Yes.
do you suggest that RStudio will be a better option than SPSS, or I should continue with the same?
Madam, one thing is, SPSS is a proprietary software. You need to purchase. You need to have a license to use it.
Yes,
And
sir.
that is R is a open source. I always prefer. I go for this RStudio now. I prefer RStudio, but mostly pharmaceutical, bioinformatics. Mostly they are using SPSS now. Mostly the industry from bioinformatics industry people, they are using SPSS now. But still, openly, it's RStudio is a competitor for SPSS. Sure, you can go for that.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Next participant, please.
Suresh Kumar.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Yeah, next. Next participant, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gangadhara. If you want to ask any question, please.
Yes, sir. So, which programming language is we supposed to be used? That is either Python or maybe R language.
Yeah, I told this question. R mostly preferred for data analysis. When you go for data analysis, is easy to do it from R language. But if you go for image processing, deep learning, neural networks, facial recognition, there you have a package called as OpenCV in Python. You can use this library. It is excellent library which is connected to Python now. You can use for them Python for those type of applications. But in fact, both can be used. But data analysis, I prefer R language than Python.
Sir,
Okay,
R
sir.
language is going to be used for even that is deep learning and as well as neural network.
Yeah, but, people say that the libraries are available from that now, but I feel when I try to install this R language with all the deep learning, it is giving trouble, lot of trouble in installing. But same thing I have done in Python, it was easier for me to install, and there is a built-in advantage of OpenCV package is also available for Python. It is not there with R now.
Okay.
Open Vision package is available, OpenCV. Okay? Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, one more question, sir.
Yes.
Jairam, do you want to ask any question?
Yes.
Please.
Go ahead, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Please ask your question.
So my question is, for working with Python, we have a cloud environment such as working with Google Collaboratory or Anaconda. Similarly, is there anything for R?
No, sir. We have only RStudio and R. There is no separate frameworks like Anaconda or there are so many frameworks in Python. You don't have that complication here in R. Just basic R and RStudio. You have done.
R is working with commands RStudio for easier navigation in graphic history. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, RStudio is the interface. You need to install on R distribution, basically.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to take one more last question now.
Yes, Deepak Patil. Deepak Patil.
Yes.
Deepak Patil. If you have any questions, please ask me.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Sir, I want to ask you one question regarding the data analysis of social network analysis. Social network analysis. Which language